All right. So this evening we have quite a big share on the element of davening, but the biggest part of the share will actually be about the names of Hashem, YKVK, Vovke, and Elokim. Last week Shabbos we discussed it, but it was a bit chaotic, I have to admit, and therefore I try to put it on slides so that it's a little bit more comprehensive. Again, this is there is a disclaimer here that everything that is said here are just opinions, are theories, halchim as I call them. So necessarily you have to always take it with a pinch of salt. But there is a lot of things that you can find back in this forum, maybe not in the same way as I explain it today, but it's a lot of the Yesodis itself you will be able to find back. So first of all, what is YKVK versus Elokim? So if I go to the next, there is already in the world of Torah, there is a general accepted knowledge that YKVK is Midas Orachmim normally, and Elokim means Midas Hadin. There's already in the first Rashi on the Chumash already also seems to be alluding to that. It is something which is famously known. Midas Rach, Midas Hadin. There's also, of course, Midas Rach, Midas Hadin from the perspective of the left and the right side of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So there is a lot of this split of the Midas Orachmim and Midas Hadin is well developed in the Kabbalistic Sforim, but also in Hasidus Sforim, etc. We also know that Elokim has a gematria of Hateva. As we know that the first perek of Sefer Bereshis, which describes the creation, actually what we see there is that continuously it is only mentioned Elokim. So it is Bereshis Bore Elokim es hashamayim v'seoretz, and the whole time he's speaking about Elokim. There's no mentioning of YKVK. There is only in perek, the second perek and third perek, there is a mentioning of Hashem Elokim, and then in the fourth perek there's a mentioning of YKVK. But we'll see that it is still not the YKVK that I'm referring to, and it is also not the one that is referred to as the Midas Orachmim. So today, this is the whole list of things that you can see that not all of them we will discuss today, but at some point we will discuss the difference between Elokim and the YKVK and Hashem. Like I said, Midas Hadin, Midas Rachmim, but we'll see also the idea of the Boire Olam on one side and the Mekor HaBroch on the other side, between the Ma and the Mi, and the Shem Etzem and the Shem HaTorah. I will not read you all of them because these will be part of the shir of tonight. But the main idea behind that is that those two opposing elements, those two opposing midos, are actually exactly the point that they both are right. And the mitzvah and the idea of a Jew and of a Ivri, as Manito would call it, or the halachic man, as Rabbi Yosef Ber Soloveitchik would call it, is to unify and balance them and use both of them and not exaggerate on one of them or not focus too much on one of them, but actually balancing or even unifying them as saying that both are actually one and only one. So this is the idea of what I wanted to speak today about. So let's continue. So basically, when it comes to the names of Hashem, so the Rebbeinu Shalom said to Moshe Rabbeinu, "Vo'ero el Avrom, el Yitzchak ve'el Yaakov bekel shakoi, u'shmi Hashem lo nodati lohem." So it's very interesting that by name of Hashem, I did not let myself know to them. Of course, the question is, it does mention a lot of times Hashem already in Sefer Bereshis before even Cain. I mean, when Cain was born, the name of Hashem, Chavo mentioned the name of Hashem. So what does it mean? Ushmi Hashem lo yodati lohem. So the Ibn Ezra explains that there is the YKVK has actually two names. They are representing two names. The first one is the Shem Ho'etzem. So this is kind of the name that you have received that is written on your passport. It's your ID name. It's a nom propre, as they say in French. And the other one is the adjective, or which represents a verb, Hashem HaToar, which represents kind of what you're doing, how to describe you in terms of what you are doing. You are a king. Mainly, you are means that you are being king. So you are behaving like a king, etc. So these are more adjectives. That is the second kind of name that we can attribute Hashem with YKVK. So basically, I'm not going to read you here what he says, but the Ibn Ezra says that originally, the Elokim was the name. What HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world is the Elokim, the part of Elokim. He is the one that is the creator of the world. Then it is written in Perek Beis, you have already Hashem Elokim, YKVK Elokim. This is similar structure to, for example, saying Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe is his name, and Rabbeinu is a Torah, is what he does. So he's teaching us Torah, and therefore the name is a teacher, Moshe, our teacher. And then you have YKVK, and this is simply according to Ibn Ezra, YKVK in Perek Gimel refers to the name YKVK, to his nom propre, his proper name. I don't know if you say it, but this is the ID name, the name that actually he has in that he would be identified with. When the Rebbeinu Shalom showed himself on the snare, through the snare that was burning but not burning, it is the first time that HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed that he is actually for one individual changing nature. So it's the first time that Hashem changed the nature in the world. And you might have different cases before, but I can give them answers. Why not? But this one is really the first one that the nature was changed. And so this is referring to YKVK. He explains, Ibn Ezra, this is where Kodesh Baruch Hu is referred to as a verb. So YKVK, when you say Hashem Elokim, it means that he's the controller and the master of the Elokim. You have to understand, at the time Elokim was indeed nature, represented nature, deterministic physical laws, or at the time was known as astrology. So why things happen, it's because of the stars and the moon and the sun. And so therefore, these are the laws of nature. And so Hashem Elokim means the one that actually controls them, is the master of them, and therefore he can change them. And this is the first time that happened, that Hashem was identified like this, was indeed when Hashem showed himself to Moshe Rabbeinu. So this is the historical perspective. So in beginning, it was Elokim as a creator of the world, creator of nature, and therefore Hashem was seen as the source of nature, who was the nature. And eventually in Shemois, Hashem became a little bit more of somebody who controlled nature, who can change nature, who doesn't mind to change nature. And this is what he showed, and all the 10 Makos was also a symbol of how Hashem can change nature, and therefore he's called an Hashem Elokim.
Just a quick question, because you say from previous example, what about the Mabul?
Oh, so the Mabul is exactly that. So the Mabul, and that's my next slide, thank you. The Mabul is that there was actually a bit of a question when the people saw all the time nature following the rules, that always an apple always fell on the floor. So everything went according to nature. And when Hashem said to Noach that something great will happen, that is a little bit outside of the natural laws, where there will be a big flood, then it was the choice of Noach was actually either to use nature to protect himself. This could mean that basically the idea there would be that Hashem is just telling Noach that a physical phenomena is going to happen. There's going to be a tsunami through an earthquake, and that he can save himself. This was one possibility. So it was not seen as a ness, but it was simply seen as a physical phenomena. And Noach could have saved himself with a tevo, or he could have seen it as something which is outside of nature, and therefore he could have built a bayis. So the word tevo from left to right is habayis, then this is what he could have built as a Beis Hamikdash, which would have been a Beis Hamikdash for the whole world, in which the Shem Hashem would have been niglet to everybody, and then you could have davened there, bring korbanos, and then the whole Mabul would not have to be happening. And since this did not happen, since he chose the first one, he chose to build a table, and Chazal indeed criticized Noach for not having davened. But the idea of the Mabul being a Nes was not 100% clear to humanity, because the Doira Flogger is, according to some, the Doira Flogger, I think it's a medrash. Some of them say that they built the Migdal Bovel. They built in order because they believed that the Mabul could happen again, as it is a physical phenomena, and therefore they can save themselves by building a tall tower. And so once the Mabul will come, it's something that is recurrent every 1,000 and so many years. And so therefore they build a high tall structure to save themselves. So then when it happens again, they can go up, running up on the mountain and be saved. So basically the Mabul was a Nes, but it was also a Nisoyan, whether they're going to see it as a Nes or they're going to just see it as a natural phenomena. And it was clearly, after Noach, clearly seen as a natural phenomena. When Noach gave the korbanos, he was very happy, not because the Nes that was done from the Mabul, but because Hashem saved him from a natural disaster. So basically, there is still not clear if the humans understood that the Mabul was a Nes rather than a natural phenomena that would have happened every 1,000 years. The Avram is actually the first to have identified HaKadosh Baruch Hu as such. So he is the founder, that he discovered, if you want, that Hashem has different midas, that he has a verb, that is not only a creator of the world and everything is running according to the deterministic physical laws, that like an apple will always fall, etc., but that HaKadosh Baruch Hu also has a personality, that is a verb that do things, that interferes, that kind of looks down what's going on, and etc., but still does not change nature, but that he is at least somebody who can be likable, that is somebody who has a personality, that likes a particular kind of people, and that actually will tell them to save themselves and change their names, or go away from one place to another, etc. So the Avram mainly was discovered, the YKVK, as a verb, but not necessarily as somebody who changed the nature. It is when Moshe Rabbeinu, it was Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu that only you from now you will see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the YKVK is the verb that not only is a personality, but also has the possibility to change the nature and will change nature. And from now on, the changing of the nature is something that will be introduced in the world. This is also what the Ibn Ezra explained, that the beginning at the time of Avraham, Hashem did not change the nature, but he simply let the nature be, but he changed the person. He helped the person of avoiding the disaster or avoiding his faith, his astrological faith, by changing a name, for example, so that the faith of Avram would not be valid anymore on the Avraham. So basically, Hashem does not change nature, but he simply helps the people to avoid disasters that are natural. And the snare, after the snare, it's more the nature can be changed in an open way, which we call open miracles, Nissim. There is also known that tzaddikim don't like to pray to change nature, as they believe that all is good how it is. So they believe that if Hashem, the creator, created the world in this way, it means that it must be good. but we know, we learn our Chazal tell us that sometimes Kodesh Baruch Hu wants us to daven to try to change nature before he can do that. So what he does then, he makes them akoros in order for our forefathers to pray. So there is a bit of not clear how this works, but it's clear that the idea behind that is that the changing of the nature is something that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu does, he did it spontaneously more after the snare. And before that, it was rather exceptional, or it hardly ever happened, or HaKadosh Baruch Hu just used tricks to avoid having to change nature. Basically, this is how it worked. When we can say in the period when nature rules is until the snare. From the snare, the Torah tells us that YKVK is ruling as well, and from the Chorban Bayis, the Rishon, YKVK is ruling, but hidden behind the nature rules. So basically, we still see a nature rules, but we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is hidden behind these rules, and that is why the last book of the Tanakh is Megillas Esther, and this is the no mention of Hashem at all. As some kind of Anshe Knesset Gdoila telling us from now on is starting the new era where Hashem rules, but behind the nature. So nature rules looks like nature rules, but Hashem is behind that. So we kind of going back to the original time when nature was ruling. To understand that difference, to put it a difference, I already gave you a shir a few times that according to the Masoires, we have a Masoires from the Tur and from the Zohar that the Luchos had 5 on one luach and 5 on the other. But if you look on the Sefer Yisroi, in Parshas Yisroi, you will find that the Parshas that are within each within the Luchos, when you have each of the dibur is actually, each of the dibros are separated by a parsha, and some of them are stumos and some of them are psuchos. So in other words, stumos, as we explained, is a new chapter, but with a link still to before, and psucho means a completely new chapter. What is interesting is that after Loisiso, Shem Hashem Lashor, there is a parsha Pesucho just before Zocher es Yom HaShabbos Lekatsher. And this is not normal. Why would there be a completely new chapter between Loisiso and Zocher? And so therefore it makes a little bit more sense to say that Onoichi, Loyi, and Loisiso is on one of the 2 tablets, and then the second tablets was starting from Zocher and Kabet Esovicho Vesimecho, Losirtzach, etc. So we see here something very interesting. So it's not only in our Sefer Torahs like that, but it's also in the early Christians, they also have it like that. So apparently the very, very early Christians, they also must have had some kind of Masoires that was coming from us, because they base themselves on our teachings and on our books. And so therefore, it seems that it was indeed picked up already before as well. So if you are accepting that there were 3 in one and 7 in the other, then it's something very interesting comes out, because the one is Onoichi, and which starts with Onoichi. So basically, the first one defines HaKadosh Baruch Hu as being Onoichi Hashem Elokecha asher hotzesicho me'eretz Mitzrayim. And the second luach starts with Zocher es Yom HaShabbos Lekatsher, ki sheish es yomim oso Hashem es hashamayim v'es ha'oretz. So here we have the element of the boire, the creator. So the left luach is the second luach is the Hashem starts off with the creator, defines as the creator, while the first luach it starts with the Onoichi, which has asher hotzesicho me'eretz Mitzrayim. So basically it's the Anochi. Anochi means the I am. So basically it is, I have a personality, and I also have, I seem to behave with emotions, and therefore lo yeh lecho Elohim acherim al ponai. Why? Because kikel kanu. So that because I am Kel kano, I am jealous, I'm jealous. And lo siso Hashem lakecho lashov, ki lo yenake, etc. Hashem is got emotions. You have to, if you are using his name in vain for lies and for shov, then it hurts him. And therefore he is a personality that kind of you have to respect. The the second part is Hashem, the second luach is more refers to what is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He is the creator, and therefore there is all the laws which has to do with making sure that the world is running normally, which is the Leisirtzach, Leisinov, etc. So all the things. What is interesting is that Kabet Esovicho Vesimecho is just before Leisirtzach, which I would not have put it there, because if you go from highest sin to the lowest sin, I would put Kabbalah Zivir a bit lower. I mean, Le Sirtzach is really the most horrible sin that a person can do. And the Kabbalah Zivir is even higher than Le Sirtzach. So maybe that's already more symbolically, it is to say that both the Anoichi, which is the Hashem that have put life into the humans, but also the world, which is the Teva, which has created man, as he says in the Posuk, that Adomo created man, as the Ramban explains. Therefore, Nase Elohim, Nase Odom Betzalmeinu. So when the Elokim Nase Odom Betzalmeinu, when they said in Loshen Rabim, it's because both the world created man, but also Hashem put his life in them. So basically, he has two creators. He has the world and Hashem, who gave the Ruach Elokim. So basically, that's why it says Kabet Esovicho ve'esimecho. So you should always be mechabed both. So basically, there are two representation of Hashem. One as it refers to the who am I, the who is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the other one refers to the what am I. This is the me and the ma. So this is the me is who and the ma is what. And therefore the two luchos are very much separated, but the anoichi is a very important one, because the anoichi means it refers to a personality, to me as who I am, and not what I am, but actually refers to the personality, that we have access to really the identity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu directly into his direct emotions and attributes that come with that. So this is basically the two luchos. One represents the personality, the other one represents the more the creator, how he is perceived, what he does rather than who he is. Now, this who I am and who and what I am, this is not only a problem, this also can create problems when people, especially by Jews, where we see that there is a lot of more anxiety problems, OCD, depression, and tics that exist by the Jews. And I think, this is my theory, is that it's also because the who I am and the what I am is not aligned. And especially the what I am is being very much pushed by our educational system as something that we assume is being the ideal Jew. It's a very monolithic. It always looks the same. All the ideal Jews always looks the same. It is the Rov. It is the Tzaddik. We also push us to become Shulchan Aruch Jews, meaning that it is one very strong monolithic view, while the personality of the humans is very different, and it's very difficult to as a child and as a teenager to accept this contradiction, where the personality is not always matching with the ideal Jewish person that is expected from him, or that he himself expects from himself. And this tension creates manifests into this type of anxiety and OCD and depression, etc. So this is a theory that I'm still developing, because I hope that if that's true, then we can maybe try to understand better how to work on this. But for the moment, this is just to give an example of the difference between the who I am and what I am. which is important. So on the left side, we have the Boire Olam, the creator of the world. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the creator of the world. On the right side, we have the Onoichi, Loiye, Loinake, Kelkano. So we have emotional ideas behind that. So how are we going to call HaKadosh Baruch Hu on the right side? So there is, when we are making a bracha every single day, we say Baruch Atu Hashem. And also when we daven, we say Baruch Atu Hashem. We start off with a bracha. And what does it mean, Baruch Atu Hashem? A lot of the Rishonim explain that the word Baruch is coming from the Mekoyer HaBrocha. So it comes from the Mekoyer HaBrocha. The word Baruch means the Mekoyer HaBrocha. So basically what we are saying is, Ato HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ato YKVK, Ato Hashem, you are the Mekoyer HaBrocha. So basically the YKVK can be translated as the Mekoyer HaBrocha. So what we can say is that the Elokim, which is the first, which is the Boire Olam, and then you had YKVK, which is the Mekoyer HaBrocha. The word brocha is referred to in a lot of times as something which are the extras that you have on top of the Piteva. So everything that you could receive al Piteva, when you have a brocha, means that you're going to receive on top of that extras. As we see, Vayvorech Elokim es Yom HaShvi, Chazal say that the brocha was that they will receive 2 times on Shabbos, basically on Friday, they will receive 2 times mon, 2 portions of mon. So brocha means extras, means doubling more on what you should receive at Pider Chateva. Therefore, also there is a famous rule that is brought down already by the Achronim, is that the brocha can only be chal on something that exists. So only if there must be a little bit of existence that is al piteva there, and therefore once it exists, then the brocha can be chal on it. The brocha is never chal on something which does not exist. There is no yesh me'ayin. It's always chal on something which exists. So the two, the Yudke Vovke, which is the Mekoyer HaBrocha, and the Elokim, which is the Boyer Olam, we believe that this is the Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. So that's the idea that Hashem Echad means that it is one. It's, of course, Hashem manifests himself as 2 different identities, but of course it's all one Hashem, but just different angles in how Hashem manifests himself. I already spoke to you that the Egyptian mythology has a Thoth, I don't know how you pronounce it, but Thoth is one god, is the god of the moon and the god of knowledge, etc. And then you have the Ptah. Ptah means the god that has created the world, and maybe this could be the source of the Toitophois, where the Jews used to carry an amulet which had Thoth and Pot, Ptah. So this is the Totapot, if you want, which was both together, which they already understood that the God who created and the God who is the Mekoyer HaBrocha, that he is actually maybe one, or they, in any case, they wanted to be miyached both as an amulet. And so HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, instead of your amulet, throw it away. But what you can use now is, instead of putting the amulet on your head, then you should put the toitophois, the tefillin on your head, which has the posuk Hashem Echad. So they have, you don't need you don't need this amulet. This is you are going to use now will be the tefillin. So that's the word toitophois. Toitophois is maybe referring to the Thoth and the Ptah, which were the two kings, 2 gods in the Egyptian mythology. You can check it up in how do you call it, on Wikipedia if you want. So when we look at the broche, when we are doing, so when we are saying Boruch Atu Hashem, and then we are saying Boire Prioet, what we are doing is Boruch Atu Hashem, you are the Mekoyer HaBrocha that gives me basically the possibility to enjoy my food, to have a noah, that gives me the possibility to taste the food and the aroma, and to have a pleasure at the eating. And then the Boire Prioet, you also the one that have created the Prioet. So this is as the Boire Olam. So again, we see here those 2. One is the Boruch Atu Hashem, means the Mekoyer HaBrocha, and the second Boire Prioet is already referring to God who is the creator. Now, so we have two elements in the brocha, but there is a third element, and this is Elokeinu melech olam. So somehow in the middle, we are interceding the Elokeinu, our God, which is the king of the world, which is a bit interesting. What does it mean, Elokeinu? Is Elokim melech olam. What does it mean, Elokeinu melech olam? And so there is the element of nations, and this is something important that we already discussed. So God is in one is the Boyer Olam. He is being discovered as the Mekoyer HaBrocha that gives extras on top of the nature, and he's also the God of nations. If you want, it is considered as a judge or as an apotropos of nations, and of course of individual within the nation. So these are the three manifestations of Hashem. We already gave a shir on a few weeks, like last year, where I discussed the Share Euro, and also, and we will see the Mizrahi on Rashi and the Ramban and Rabbeinu Bechaye and the Chido. The Share Euro, Mizrahi, and the Chido say it literally. What I will say here now, especially that the middle part here. So the idea that there are Hashem created a layer in between the nations and himself, and we will see why he did that. There is the reason why. The Chido gives a reason, but for the moment, if you want, you can say the following. That is only Mahalach. So I'm giving here just a Mahalach. This is not clearly written the way that I'm explaining it right now. But you have the front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and you have the back of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is the Yudke Vovke, and the back of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is more the Midas Adin, this is the Elokim. This is also called in the Kabbalist Sitro Acharo, which means the backside behind the whatever the mechitze kind of. There is also another word for the Sitra Achar is the Samach Mem. We don't pronounce his name, and basically the Samach Mem explains the Shara Oire, but other Sforim as well, is the Eloha. Every time there is an Eloha, a nation, there are 70 nations, and there are therefore also 70 Elohas and Elohimis, if you want, and they are all reporting to the Samach Mem. The only one that is not reporting, the only one that is directly to the Samach Mem is Amalek. So Amalek is the nation of the Samach Mem. And therefore, when we say that once Amalek will be destroyed, then the name of Hashem will be complete, is because as long as Amalek exists, the Samach Mem exists. Because if one sins, then the other one gets punished. So there is a direct link between them. But if one gets destroyed, the other one also gets destroyed, and then therefore there is no more multiple gods by the nation, and they all is under the umbrella of the Yudke Vovke. So this is a bit the explanation that you can have. So on front side of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have Yudke Vovke. Yisrael does not have any intermediate. The Elokei Yisrael, the God of the Elokei or Ivrim or the Elokei Yisrael, is directly, this is the God that we refer to, which is Yudke Vovke. So we are directly referring to the Yudke Vovke that we can ask directly. We are in a direct link, while in the back, the Sitra Achar, this is the Samach Mem and the Sitra Achar are the in-between, if you want, and this is through the Elohas, the 70 Elohas, if you want, and the nations they're only playing in this field where they can ask their own Eloha, but they do not ask to the Yudke Vovke. So the Yudke Vovke is protected from them, and they cannot have access to the Yudke Vovke. They can have access only to their own God, which is there. The reason why this has happened, the Chido, and it's in the Shiras David, and I saw it, if you want, I saw it in the Sefer on the Nefesh HaChaim, Pirush on the Nefesh HaChaim from the Chaim Volozhin. It's on the Sefer from V'chachto B'chaim. So on the Pirush, there is in Ingelad, in the beginning, in the first few pages, there you can see how he brings down the Chido. The Chido explains that basically the power that humans had to be able to influence the higher world was too dangerous, because at the end of the day, every time they did something, they destroyed more than they were metakin. So there was more kilkul than a tikkun. And so the humans were mamish destroying the Olam Yonim. And so HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided during the Dor HaFloga to make a buffer between himself and the nations. So he created nations, meaning he created gods for those nations. So not necessarily, you don't have to read it literally, but you can also see that he created gods for the different nations, 70 different gods if you want. And so it's a kind of what I call a buffer. It's a buffer that doesn't allow the nations to destroy too much, because it was apparently very difficult. And so it's kind of, they can't harm very much because they have been a buffer. Everything they do something is the Eloha that actually buffers it, and he gets the punishment, or he is the one that punishes further down if HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends him. So basically, this is the explanation of the gods of the nations, is more as a buffer in order to avoid that the goyim, the nations, should harm too much on the higher worlds, and therefore you have these different gods. The Mizrahi says it nearly mefurish as well. That's how he reads the Rashi. I'm not going to go into that, but you can see the Mizrahi on the Posuk Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, where he clearly says that there are the different gods that have their own Sar and their own Eloha, and that therefore the idea is that Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, that the Osit in the future, Hashem will be one, because this barrier, this buffer will disappear. There's also the Share Oire. I already also spoke about that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives the Sar, the Eloha, he calls them also the Eloka, that they are the Kinuim of Hashem. And so they have something about, they are godly, but they are only Kinuim. They are only second names of Hashem. And each nation receives on Rosh Hashanah a certain amount, and then he has to give it over to his people, and depending on Averas and Mitzvahs, they can also decide, and they can be shofet on those land. But it's not anymore HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's not anymore YKVK, but it is the nations of the land, the gods of the nations that are actually judging them. So when we are saying Baruch Atu Hashem, so this is the Yoah HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the YKVK is the Mokor HaBrocha. And then we say, Elokeinu, our God, is the Melech Olam. He is the King of the world. And therefore we're saying, Boire Prio Eitz. And then he becomes also the God, the creator. So what we basically are saying is that the three manifestation of Hashem as the Mekor HaBrocha, as the creator, but also as the God of Israel. He is our God, and he's the Melech Olam. He's actually the one that is all the way on top of. So we don't access to an n-1, but we access directly to the master of the universe. We have a direct access to the highest source. What the way that Manitou actually describes that the role that we have, why did we receive access directly to Hashem, is because the Jewish nation was created artificially by Hashem. So it's not like a nation that went into a place and developed and then created cities and etc. and naturally was created, but it was an artificial created Jewish nation, and he had a specific purpose, and the specific purpose is to keep all the goyim together at one day and to bind them together so that we can influence them, and they should live in harmony and help in the continuation of the being the tikkun olam. So basically, we are the chimney kind of that crosses through the level of the buffer. It is through us that Hashem manifests himself. Therefore, if the goyim wants to have access to Hashem, they have to come to us, because we have the chimney which goes through the buffer, as we saw before. We don't have a buffer, and the idea is that we Jews should be the nation that will bound all those 70 nations together into one bouquet. So instead of having 70 separate goyim, we should have 70 mishpochos. So it should go from a goy, a nation, to a mishpocha. And this will happen through the fact that we will be a nation, a goy kodosh, and therefore we have to teach morality in the ashlomas or the tikkun olam. So this is to become the Or LaGoyim. So basically, this is our goal. And so Hashem specially created us for that purpose. And therefore he said, since I created you as a nation, I will be your God. So I created the nation. I didn't create the world and then the nations existed. And then he put Elokims on top of the nations. But I created you. And so therefore I will be your God. Like you have the God of Belgium, you also have the God of Israel. The God of Israel is actually the God that is the Lekehu Elohim. He is the God of all the other gods. So we have direct access to that God.
Just a little point. I thought we spoke, or I saw that since time of Israel after in the Midbar, it's a lot of bad things. Hashem is not directly with us, but the Malach in between.
Yeah.
So in that case, or what we said, we also have n-1, in certain way.
Yeah, that's why Moshe Rabbeinu said no way. So so we did not accept it because HaKadosh Baruch Hu was afraid again that something will go wrong during this process. That's what you mean? You mean that the Malach that will go in front to? Yeah. But it didn't happen at the end. So at the end, it was HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, right?
Yeah, but I mean the idea of having like a buffer.
A buffer, yeah.
It's not something that looks completely out of us.
Are you making a point or are you asking a question? Because
no,
not
for
clear.
me it's a question. Let's say we saw that the possibility of having a buffer exists.
Yeah.
It was almost put in place.
Yeah.
So is that
no, it was almost not in place for a temporary period. It was only not in place during the time that we would enter Israel and making war, because Hashem saw that there is a reluctancy, and so he said, "Oh la la, this is going to be trouble." So I'll put in a temporary, but it's only temporary. I don't think the idea was to always have a buffer. It's only during the Yetzias Mitzrayim when they were entering at Israel. That's how I see it.
Okay. It was a question.
Yeah, it's only temporary as a buffer. Yeah, the only thing now here I'm not sure is how to make the picture, whether we are the Or LaGoyim, we are centrally. This is only symbolically. Are we the center of all the nations, and then we are touching them to us, and then we are giving them the lights, we are giving them morality, we're teaching them morality, we're teaching them the Torah, or we are the surrounding like the string that surrounds and that keeps the bouquet together. And this is more the symbolic that you can say. There's no difference with the two, but it's just a way that I don't know exactly how to define our role that we have in this picture. Now, the third part will be about davening, how it works. So a few times I already spoke about that there's a question, how can we daven if things we only receive what we deserve. So it's according to the Zchuyos, says in the Mishnah. And so the Tosfos Yom Tov asks, if we only receive what we deserve, so why should we daven? Because if we daven for something we don't deserve, then we won't receive it. And if we deserve it, we will receive it even without davening. And so the Tosfos Yom Tov gives an answer that yes, it's true, we would receive it anyway, but there is such a concept of a muzzle, that there is a muzzle that is kind of a barrier, and that barrier can block the shefa to come down. So, and what we daven Hashem is to help us in breaking those barriers. So this is so it's not that we receive more, but we simply, at least we should receive what we should receive. and not being stopped by the muzzle, he calls it. The second shot is the Maharal, that he says, yes, no, the idea behind that is that sometimes if you don't daven, then your base kibul, what in order to receive is too small. When you daven, the base kibul becomes larger, and so you can receive much more. So basically, even if you deserve something, but if your base kibul, you didn't daven for it, you will not receive the full. You will only receive a partial of that of what you should receive, because you don't have the base kibul. The davening increases your base kibul so that you should be able to receive more than you would receive before davening. So these are the two that actually are basically, you can argue with me on this one, but basically we receive how much we deserve, okay? And the davening helps us to receive at least what we deserve. The Sefer Ikrim, he actually say, no, we can receive more than we deserve, but the mitzvah of davening, how? By the mitzvah of davening. By a davening, we change to become a new person, and not only are we a new person, and therefore what has been written to us in Rosh Hashanah can change, because we are not anymore the same person, but also because we made such a big mitzvah of davening, we increase our zechuyos. So davening is considered one of the biggest mitzvahs, where the Torah in Parshas Mishpatim gives the enormously amount of zechuyos, what we will have. It says in Parshas Mishpatim, it's mentioned that when you will va'avadtem es Hashem Elokeichem, so when you will serve Hashem, and avodas Hashem means, according to Sefer Ikrim, means davening. Uveirach es lachmocho v'esmemecho v'asiroi simachlo mikirbecho v'asio meshakelo v'akoro ba'artzecho es pispar yomecho amale. So there's a whole list of schar that we will receive once you daven. So this is how the Sefer Ikrim explains it. There is, we can actually take the Tosfos Yom Tov and saying that the Tosfos Yom Tov, what he says is that with davening, the muzzle is maybe on the level of Elohim. So maybe it is kind of the natural, if you want, the natural laws, the astrology, if you want, that is being removed, which is on the same level as with the Goyim. And so when we daven, we break through that barrier, this buffer zone, and we go straight to the YKVK. So with a bit of goodwill, one could say that we can combine the explanation of the Shara Oire with the Mizrahi and the Chido, and saying that when you daven, you go through the level of the muzzle. The muzzle is also a level where your faith is being discussed, has been arranged by muzzle, whether this is astrology or it is something else, or it is natural disposition, whatever it is, but this is the level of Eloha, and therefore this is the davening breaks through. So this is one of the ways that you could combine those two pshotim into one. Now, there's a fourth view on tefillah. This is from the Mabit in a Sefer Beis Elokim. And there he says something very interesting. He gives a gather on what is tefillah. And he says that the tefillah is actually, he defines it with the big letters. He says, "Vehu bakosha se'odom hiokel dovor dvar tzoyrech she'eino b'rshusei." So he says it's asking from a person to ask to Hashem something which is a necessity, and it is something she'eino b'rshusei, something that he could not receive it by his own means. So if something you can receive by your own means, for example, if you can work to have at least, 3,000 euros, and you want 5,000 euros, so you can only daven for 2,000 euros, but you cannot daven for the 3,000, because the 3,000 you need to go and work, because that's not, that's b'shusay. So something which is not in your reshus, for this you can daven. Something which is in your reshus, you cannot daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The idea behind that is, for him, davening is something which is rather difficult and dangerous. It's you don't put yourself in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and ask for something, because then you are becoming vulnerable to be judged. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to say, okay, why do you daven? What do you want to do with it? Who are you? Etc. So basically, the idea of davening is rather risky, something risky. And therefore, a person, the only he can ask to HaKadosh Baruch Hu something which is a necessity. It means, in other words, not something which is a luxury, something that is not really, that's not something that you need, but something rather that you want. And also, she'eina b'shusay is it has to be something which you feel that you've done everything you can to get it, and you didn't get it, and you feel that this is not something you can get, and therefore you can daven. So he is marich to explain each separate word on what it means here in his sefer. What it comes out from here, what we could say is that working, and that's something which is a step which I would like to make, and also it's a little bit also what Manitou is doing, is that working is kind of a davening to the Elokim, or to nature. And this is what Rabbi Yoshe Beck calls a majestic man. So when you work and you build a business, or you create products that you're selling, or you're a distributor, what you're doing is you're making the world a better place physically. And this is what we can call avodas Hashem baguf. You are continuously improving the world. You're adding value. Okay, so this is working. The opposite of working is, for example, a mesachik bekurvia, or somebody that buys shares and sells shares. He doesn't add any value to the world, and so therefore he is not doing the idea is even possibly edus. So basically, this is the idea where you are working is davening to Elokim. So this is you are trying the natural laws in order to have parnosa. So you are trying at least the dover shebirshuscho. You are the praying is davening to the Mekor HaBrochos. This is an avodas Hashem belev, and this is the area of the homo religiosis, as we say. And here it is making the world a better place spiritually by adding brocha to the world. So you have the natural things that will happen to the world, and then you have the brocha, through the brocha that will come in more spiritually, that will bring spirituality in the world. So what is something very interesting, and this is, I like this a lot, is as we are monotheistic, we tend to speak about limude chol and limude kodesh, or avodas kodesh and avodas chol. So when we go out of besmedish and we go to work, we're saying that we are busy with chol. When we go into besmedish, we are busy with kodesh. But this is something which Manitou is quite strong, and I think it's also Rav Kook as well, basically, is that as we are monotheistic, there is no such a concept of chol and kodesh. All of them are kodesh. So both the science and the Gemara kodesh, both work and davening and learning are both kodesh. So when you go out of shul, or you come in shul, it's not like you came from chol to kodesh, and when you leave the shul, you are going from kodesh to chol. You are in a continuously kodesh, you're continuously in a journey of kodesh, where whatever you do, you have to do correctly. You have to work, making sure that you get the 3,000 euros, and then if you need an extra 2,000, then you should daven to Hashem, and this is the part of the davening is there. But the avodas Hashem makes that you have an obligation to work and to make sure that the world is a better place. This is the if you want the good balancing of both, that the person needs to know what he has to do, and at one point he can daven to Hashem. So basically, the view of the Mabit is something which is dover tzoyer. The way that I see the dover tzoyer means that does it help in making the world a better place? Does it help in improving the world, whether it is on individual level? And the second point is it eno b'shusar? Did I try it first myself using the natural laws of Elokim? Or if not, then I better first try it myself. If it's impossible, in that case, you can daven. So this is a little bit the gather of the Mabit. It's a very, very interesting view of the Mabit on Tefillah, and it opens up a lot. It also helps you in the understanding of Ishtadlus. one of the main difficulties in Ishtatlus is what does it mean Ishtatlus? Sometimes they ask, why do I need Ishtatlus? It looks like it's more of, yeah, you have to do a bit of Ishtatlus, and then the rest will come. You have to have Bituchen in Hashem. But according to him, no, Ishtatlus is actually, the word Ishtatlus means that you first have to do everything. You have to go all the way till you have done everything that you can in order to achieve it. If it doesn't work, then you can have Bituchen in Hashem, you can daven or whatever. But the Ishtatlus is more than that. It seems that from according to the Mabit, one can explain the Ishtatlus as being really a full attempt, initiative to do everything you can in order to achieve what you need to achieve, and the rest is will be coming from the Mekoyer HaBrocha. So there is actually two elements of davening in the Shemona Esrei. There are two the Shachris, Mincha, Ma'ariv is actually one of them is Gemara says it's Avrom, the over is Tiknum, and another Gemara says that Keneget Midim Tiknum. So it seems like a machlokes, but basically it doesn't have to be a machlokes. It's what actually Manitou explains is that one of them is the permission to daven, and the other one it is the chiyuv to daven. So when we're saying the over is tiknum, how I understand it is they were metakin the problem that normally people could not go all the way to YKVK because they never acknowledged HaKadosh Baruch Hu as being a personality that you can daven to, as we explained before. So the always opened up that possibility that you can daven straight away to the Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov, but you have to be careful. There is a condition that you have to be tzorech and has to be eno b'rshusah. But you're allowed to ask to the Mekoyer HaBrocha to change nature. And this we see Avraham did it in his context, and Yitzchak did it in his context, and Yaakov did it in his context. I'm not going to explain you why, which are the different contexts, but you have different contexts. Therefore, they receive the permission to daven Shachris, Mincha, and Ma'ariv. And the chiyuv to daven is, which is for the klal. This is the Nevi'im who actually designed the formula, and we did it also as a chiyuv at least 2 times a day on Shachris and on Mincha, which are the chiyuv. The Ma'ariv is only a reshus. But the idea is that the davening should be an equivalent to the kohen that brings every morning the korban toida. So when Chazal says keneget, it does not mean it's instead of, because otherwise we see in Chazal that even during the second Beis Hamikdash people davened Shachris and Mincha, and so how can it be if it's keneget? Anyway, they had the korban tzomit, but it means it's the equivalent. It's, in other words, it means that it is like the kohen that brings a korban tomid, that we standing in front of Hashem. So it's very important to realize that when we daven the Shemona Esrei, we are as if we are the kohen that brings a korban for the whole Klal Yisrael. Each one of us is the kohen that brings a korban tomid for whole Klal Yisrael. The reason why I'm saying that is because it's indeed for a lot of Gedolim, they really didn't like us when we are davening things that are personal in the middle of the Shemona Esrei. I know that there are tefillas, the Yerotzim by Refuenu, but a lot of Gedolim, the Nefesh HaChaim, didn't like it. A lot of Gedolim didn't like it, and they said if you daven, you should daven after the Shemona Esrei. It should daven after the Yul Rotzon or before the Yul Rotzon, but not in the middle of the Shemona Esrei, because how I understand it is that when the Kohen would bring a korban tomid, and while he's bringing the korban tomid, he davens to Hashem, this korban tomid, please, I would need a shidduch for my daughter. Can you please help me? We would not appreciate it. This is a korban that is for the klal, and you are just a shliach of us. Why do you ask your own things? This is for the klal, and you are nichlal in the klal. So you are as a prata nichlal in the klal. Why do you ask extra? This is not the time or the moment or the place to ask for proteus, for things which are for yourself. And so, therefore, a lot of Gedolim were not seeing it as something which they appreciated. So just in short, a bit of a recap is, so we have Elokim as on the left side and Hashem on the right side. On the left side, Elokim represents the Midas Adin and Midas Rachmim, as Chazal already tell us. The Elokim is actually the Boire Olam, and Hashem, the YKVK, is the Mekoir HaBrocha. If you want, the Elokim is more the Ma, the what he is, and the Hashem is the Mi, is who he is. So Betzem, you can say that the name YKVK that is on the left side, when you say about Hashem Elokim until the Maisesne, until Perek Vov Posuk Dalet, when he says Hashem Elokim, the Hashem is Hashem Ho'etzem, it's the proper name, while after that is the Hashem HaToar, it's the verb, it's already an adjective, it's the one that is Mahave the Elokim, in other words, he controls nature. And therefore, the Yudke Vovke as Onoichi represents the personality of Hashem, and while the Ki B'Sheishes Yomim also as Hashem, as Hashemayim V'Seoretz, is the more of, sometimes you can even say it's deterministic. The nature always repeats itself. So it is more a machine, less, not so much of personality, but it's somebody who makes sure that the machine is running perpetual, that always the sun goes up and down, etc. The idea of avoid means the ishtadlus, the avoid, the sukulos maybe I put in there, while on the right side you have the tefillah, and the tefillah can be for adding more, but you can also ask Hashem the siyata dishmaya. So you can ask Hashem to love us, to feel some, to show us some appreciation, and to help us to have a siyata dishmaya in what we are doing. The left side is based on the teva, and then the right side is more the nes, is the element of the miracles. I am going to jump here because this would be too much now. So we have the left side, we have the Boire Prioetz, and the right side is the Bo Chatu Hashem. And in the middle is the Elokeinu Melech Oilom, which is the element of the nation, of the Jewish nation. Our God is the king of the world, is the master of the world. In other words, the third element, which is the Kodesh Baruch Hu being the king of the nations, for us, we have a direct link. Our God is the king of the world. So it's like claiming that the God that we daven to, he is not only Mekoir HaBrocha, is not only the creator, but he's also Elokeinu Melech Olam. Our God is the king of the world, is the master of the world. And then we have on the left side is the error. This is the majestic man and cognitive man. And on the right side, you have the man of faith and the homo religiosus. The left side, you have more the Yosef and the Chiloni, while on the right side, you have the Yehuda and the Charedi. The left side is the world of Esav, the Sitra Achra, it's the world of Esav, and the right side is the world of Yaakov. The Mishpat, Tzedakah Mishpat, which HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that this is the strength of Avraham Avinu to be able to combine the Tzedakah Mishpat. So the role of a Jew, of an halachic man or an Ivri, they are the same. The role is to balance them both and to accept that both are one, and to not give preferences to one or the other, maybe even one more than the other, because simply this is a step approach. But this is basically the role of the Jew, is to balance both and not but believing that both are kodesh, both are as important as the other, and that we have to live a life which we try to balance both. To just explain it, that the advantage of accepting that there is a thesis and an antithesis is that when you pull on those strings, at the end you go up. So basically the synthesis is growing. You grow through a synthesis by taking two opposite ideas, and then you pull on them, and then what happens is that you can grow higher. So this is it for today. Are there any questions? I will stop the recording.